I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, having to create an expose as I'm caught in the middle of one person's spiderweb of lies, shady behavior, and scams. But here we are. Last week I uploaded a video showcasing an indie open-world action RPG that goes by the name of Somber Heaven, being developed by one person, Nico. The Kickstarter was open for this project on February 19th, and it ran for 2 months, meaning that this Kickstarter just recently finished. It did manage to meet its goal of $13,000 US, with a total amount raised of $14,281 as of right now. Now, you guys may have noticed that I ended up removing the video talking about this project. The video was up for about 12 hours. However, a few hours after the video was uploaded, I was contacted by a mutual of Nico's, a person that had previously worked with him on Somber Heaven. This was the first time I was hearing that there was at one stage actually a team working on this project. As far as I knew, this project was being solo developed. Now, this email contained a multi-paragraph write-up detailing the insanely shady behavior of Nico, not just towards Somber Heaven, but also his long, extensive history of scams, of lies, multiple failed projects, as well as straight up theft. Now, this email wasn't just paragraphs with a bunch of allegations, but it also contained a ton of Discord conversation screenshots and just straight up receipts. And although I could tell that in this email, coming from this person supplying me with the information, that it was clear they had a vendetta against Nico, as they were kicked off the team along with the rest of the members so that Nico could pursue it as a solo project, the evidence that was provided was damning enough. So because of this, I instantly removed the video and then proceeded to confront Nico in the DMs. He sent me back this long-winded message, basically providing his side of the story towards each of the claims that I brought to him. Now, while his answers weren't completely satisfying for me, I still felt as if I wasn't in a position to outright claim that, at least looking at Somber Heaven, it was set up to be a scam to funnel money. And to also bring all of this information to the public. This kind of content you have to be incredibly careful about. You have to ensure that you have all of the facts in front of you before you start swinging claims. I did, however, let a few people know that had previous interactions with Nico about why I decided to remove the Somber Heaven video and the information that I was given. Now, Darlin, a good friend of mine within the Kingdom Hearts community that had multiple interactions with Nico in the past, decided to look into this a bit further, as he too had also experienced some shady behavior. And, well, over this past week, even more information has surfaced that portrays an incredibly rotten image of Nico. I feel like I'm obligated to make this video because I think it's important that for anyone out there that ended up backing the Somber Heaven Kickstarter, they should probably know the type of person who is responsible for it. And also, I promoted this project on my channel. To say I'm frustrated would be putting it lightly. This guy has literally jeopardized both my reputation and channel, something I've worked incredibly hard for over the past decade, and it's especially annoying when I'm the one doing this guy a solid, as I wanted this project to get more exposure, as I thought he had a really solid idea. Even though at first I was pretty hesitant towards providing a showcase for this project, the Kickstarter trailer seemed almost like an asset flip. Like, not a lot of originality going on, and to the point where everything that showcased in the trailer was simply just systems and assets that were downloaded, whether it be free asset packs or potentially maybe even stolen, and we'll circle back to that later on. But because he managed to get the Kickstarter funded, I thought, okay, maybe there's some potential here. The straw that broke the camel's back in this situation, what urged me to finally bring this to the public, was a response he gave to one of the victims here, along with the additional information that's come out over the past week in the fact that it's been days now since this has been made public, yet Nico hasn't acknowledged this at all. Now, it is absolutely important to know that while I am going to be providing a lot of evidence throughout this video, there are also straight up claims. I cannot prove that Somber Heaven is in fact a scam, but what I can show you is the type of person that Nico is. Let's start with the commission scamming, as this is probably the core issue of this entire situation. Nico, over the past few years, has been taking on commissions to create Kingdom Hearts 3 mods. It's been claimed by the person who initially emailed me that there are about 12 people that have been scammed out of a Kingdom Hearts 3 mod commission, and this has been going on since 2021. Something that's mentioned here is that apparently he bragged about doing this practice back in 2022. At the time, the person who sent me this information thought he was joking about it, but realized that perhaps maybe he wasn't, considering there's a long history of him actually doing this. And ever since Darlin made a public statement about Nico a few days back, a ton of people have come forward to explain their experience of being scammed by Nico. How this works is Nico would collect the money instantly up front. And also, by the way, it's important to know that the amount Nico was charging for some of these mods is absolutely ludicrous. This person was being charged $400 to $800 for a simple recolor. Darlin had commissioned Nico $100 in order to create an original character mod for Kingdom Hearts 3. There were some issues with the character model, and Darlin asked Nico to fix these up. However, in return, Nico asked for $350, more than 3 times the original amount, in order to fix the problems, to which of course Darlin logically declined and managed to fix the problems himself via his own expertise within 20 minutes. Darlin's is a lucky example though, because he actually got his mod finished. The general practice here is that once Nico would collect the money, he simply wouldn't work on the mod at all, and rather just give excuse after excuse whenever a person would ask, hey, is there currently an update on my commission? Still to this day, most people that have commissioned Nico haven't received their commission, or if they've asked for a refund, haven't received their money back. This one person here, let's just call them Tom for the sake of keeping things anonymous, spent over $1,000 for a Kingdom Hearts 3 mod. There were a few pretty insane things that came from this commission. The first one here is Nico mentioning that he's not a very good shoe modeler, and that Tom would have to grab his own 3D shoe model to send to Nico to apply to his Kingdom Hearts 3 commission, which Tom did. He ended up spending $10 on a model so that it could be used for his mod. He eventually got to a point where he asked for a refund, the same as everybody else. Nico told Tom that through raising money via an upcoming Kickstarter, this was in December of last year, if that Kickstarter is successful, he can start to repay people's commissions. And at this stage, this is the only way that Nico would be able to refund any of the commissions so far, because tallying up most of the people that have been scammed here from who we know, we're sitting at around about the $5,000+ mark. There's just one thing, Kickstarter money can only be used for the purpose of the Kickstarter project. So legally, he's not allowed to use that Kickstarter money to refund people. That'll have to come out of his own pocket. And the thing is, Nico is aware of this. He mentioned to me that Somber Heaven isn't a way to refund these comms. That makes no sense, and it isn't allowed anyway. If your project is funded, you must use all of the funds towards the project and the project alone. However, what he's telling people on Discord in relation to refunds is that he'll be able to return the money, or at least not all of it, but in lump sums, as that's what he told Tom, in installations of $100 per month, once the project is funded. And what's even worse is Nico told Tom in this conversation to back the Somber Heaven project on Kickstarter, even though this guy now owes him $1,000+ US. Nico's reasoning behind this: to ensure funding, bruh, like $1 or something. The more backers, the better. How does one person even have the audacity to ask for an additional 5 cents, let alone $1, or simply any amount of money, after you've left multiple people hanging for months? And circling back to that thing of using the Kickstarter money for stuff that isn't related to the project, Nico straight up mentions in this conversation with another development member that he intended to use some of that money for electricity bills. And once again, he's contradicting himself here because recently he told me that again, you can't use Kickstarter money for things like bills. He tells one person one thing and another person something entirely different. This is why looking at Nico's response to me, it's pretty much all discredited, as I've seen multiple cases of him completely contradicting himself. In the same conversation, Nico is talking about the idea of running the Kickstarter beyond the point of once it's funded. This is an option that you can do on Kickstarter. You can basically keep running it and collecting funds for as long as you want. Granted that the Kickstarter has received at least one payment within 30 days. The idea behind this would be to try and reach stretch goals after the initial period has ended. One of the team members mentioned that this wouldn't be a good idea. You don't need to collect money once you're all paid up. But it's more so the way of how Nico talks about generating more money through this project, mentioning why would you say no to that? It's free money. Other Kickstarters have done it in the past and they made an extra 15 Gs. This development member literally told him that in the way that he's talking, this is sort of how you get exposed videos made on you. And well, look what's happening now. It's believed that this is one of the reasons as to why Nico decided to kick the entire development team, as this is one of the options he wanted to pursue for the Kickstarter, and we can see that happening right now. You're still able to back the project even though it's fully funded. Oh yeah, Nico even asked Tom here to help pay for Claude Pro, an AI assistant that would help him code and program because he's not familiar with Python. Now the use of AI systems is subjective, though the common opinion is that it's frowned upon. The reason why it's important here with Nico is that this was the sole reason as to why he decided to kick the person who initially got in contact with me out of the Somber Heaven team, mentioning that this person was a huge advocate for AI. He apparently even eats AI for breakfast. I can't imagine that would taste too good. Yet Nico himself uses AI for his work, and this Claude thing is not the first case of Nico using AI systems. Nico used an AI art generator to generate a concept art to try and recruit Darlin to 3D model for Somber Heaven back in 2022. I also have reason to believe that Udio, a generative music AI system, was used to create music. He's explained to both myself and various people that have commissioned him that the reason why he was never able to deliver these commissions was because he simply took on too many. Man has no idea what even his own workload is capable of. If it means there is possible money in the equation, especially if it's up front, he'll take it, even if it means he can't actually deliver what is promised. And what's worse is, even though there were commissions there that he needed to finish, he continued to take on more jobs towards the end of 2024 and even at the beginning of this year. Nico ended up ghosting Tom for 3 months. He wanted to know an update on the progress of his mod. And finally, on October 3rd, he responded, "What's up?" With Tom responding, "What do you mean what's up? I've been trying to reach you for months, laughed my ass off. What happened?" Hiatus lol, working on a trailer for my action RPG game for Kickstarter. I'm sorry, but like, what? 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 Man literally ghosted people for months and then just says, oh yeah, no updates, haven't been working on what you paid for. I've been working on action RPG. This man is not real! Nico's work ethic and expertise is something that absolutely needs to be known in the grand scheme of things. Nico has started a ton of projects in the past, and none of which have ever been completed. Some of these, he's even collected financial support for. Now, he has started a few Kingdom Hearts 3 mod projects and hyped them up on social media in the past, and none of these were ever finished. It's not a big deal. It's not like people are throwing money towards these, so there's no obligation for these projects to actually be finished. However, at one point he was attempting to create a Kingdom Hearts Key remake in which he said, I am vowing to create this project, which is not a Kingdom Hearts 3 mod, but rather a fully standalone thing being developed on UE5. This is the thing, he promises a lot and it never happens, so the vowing and stuff, it doesn't mean shit. Now, I didn't know this, but it was brought to my attention by the person who initially emailed me that there was actually a Kickstarter page for this project, which is highly, highly illegal. You're creating something based on an already existing IP. You cannot collect money for it. Now, there's no actual proof of this. Unfortunately, everything towards the Kickstarter page of the key remake has been scrubbed from the internet, but I believe this just knowing what I know about Nico. But what we do know with the utmost certainty is that Nico would advertise progress on this Kingdom Hearts key remake and then underneath link his Patreon. Among the Dead Ones is another project that Nico started a few years ago, a survival zombie game. It actually generated quite a lot of attention over on YouTube, generating over 1 million views. This video, though, is now unlisted. There was a PayPal link to help support this game, and while I know that he hasn't collected that much money through this, some earnings have been generated. There was even a GoFundMe for this as well. Now, this game was left in the dirt in 2023, with a lot of people interested in it, wondering, okay, what's going on? Especially for the people that may have chucked small amounts of cash towards it. There was no update given by Nico, any progress updates or word on this, and then on March 10th of this year, after almost 2 years, randomly, a new update appears on the Twitter page, as if the project was never left, confirming that work on this is still happening. Nico's outright confirmed this to me via the DM that he sent me when I confronted him, mentioning that he's still kind of working on this project, which is ridiculous considering that, for one, you have commissions that you either need to refund, so you should be working on actually doing something to earn the money to send the refunds, and two, you're supposed to be developing a highly ambitious open world RPG. Why are you working on another project? I'm not trying to control what this guy should and shouldn't be doing, but it's not a very good look, especially for people that have been scammed by this person and people who have invested money on another project. People are going to start to think that you're not correctly using your time and that either the money that is owed will never come back to them, or the money that's been invested has been wrongly invested. Nico was also working on a Harry Potter-inspired game, Magic Within. Development on this ceased due to working on it around the time of the release of Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I don't have any proof, but it's also claimed that Nico is collecting financial support for this project as well. Oh yeah, and one in-development screenshot quite literally shows us Ollivanders. That's also not a great look. And then we have Project Wild, which directly connects to Somber Heaven. Now, I have no idea what Project Wild is even supposed to be, but apparently this is yet another failed project of Nico's that he decided to create a Kickstarter for. Now again, the Kickstarter evidence has been removed entirely from the internet, but one way to actually prove that this once existed is if you type in just simply Nico Skips into Google, you get some pretty typical results. But if you were to put in Nico Skips Project Wilds, you'll see that the Somber Heaven Kickstarter page comes up. That's because Google has cached the fact that in the past, a Kickstarter link was connected to the name Nico Skips. So it basically just displays the next best thing. But furthermore, Somber Heaven is just a reskin of Project Wilds. This footage has been provided by the person who initially got in contact with me, someone that worked on developing Somber Heaven, showing that when you launch Somber Heaven on Steam, the current iteration is simply just Project Wilds. And you can see that this project never got that far. So this is where we arrive at Somber Heaven. Now, the idea of this game had been lingering in Nico's head for many years. I think the first inception of Somber Heaven started around 2021-2022, putting in elements of Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, two communities that have incredibly dedicated fan bases. In his own words, something like that will absolutely slap, and no doubt generate some attention. Somber Heaven originally had a small group of people working on the project, with Nico as the project lead. Throughout a lot of last year, the team collectively brainstormed together to come up with ideas for the characters, the world, and the overarching narrative, along with the preparation of some assets, looking at character models. Now this is where we start to get into the stolen asset side of things. The Somber Heaven character Lillian is actually a modified version of Aerith's model from Final Fantasy VII Remake. This image right here is actually the first piece of evidence that started the entire gross chain of events to do with Nico. As soon as I saw this, my dick dropped to the floor. Because this is 100% asset theft, and if Square Enix knew about this, he could be sued. The reason why Nico decided to go this route is because going back to the shoe situation, where Nico needed a 3D model of a shoe as he couldn't model his own, he's not great at modeling. This is his own original attempt at trying to model a face. Because it wasn't working, he decided, alright, I can just use Metahuman. I'm trying to go for a Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts type aesthetic when it comes to the character design, so I can just load in a bunch of Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts models and then slightly modify them so that it kind of looks original. And that's hence why the characters have a very strong Final Fantasy looking aesthetic to them. Because it's not just Lillian, but it's even the main character of this game, which is a combination of Sora and Cloud fused together with a few modifications. Now I can't speak for the other characters that appear in this project, but just given that Nico doesn't have the expertise to create his own character models, and that the other characters are basically along the same lines as the two we know are currently using stolen models, yeah, I think it's safe to say that any character model that appears for Somber Heaven is using stolen models to some degree. Now the outfit that we see the main character wearing here is not created by Nico. It was created by someone that was recruited onto the Somber Heaven development team. They made this for Ireland under the impression that they would be paid for it. That wasn't the case. From what I'm told, this is a relatively well-known person within the indie space. Nico made them sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, so they basically couldn't talk about anything to do with the project, even if, hypothetically speaking, he were to be fucked over, legally, he wouldn't be able to talk about it. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Or should I say, allegedly. Though, just because of the insane amount of soil we currently have on Nico, I would absolutely believe this to be true. Once he found out that he wasn't going to get paid for this, he left the team. And still to this day, Nico is using that outfit. Now, as I was saying, there's not a lot going on in the Somber Heaven trailer. Like, it's really just camera shots showing a bunch of environments. You've got some running, there's, I don't know, fishing, if you can even call this fishing, and then there is some combat. And my exact thought when I saw this was, okay, don't be harsh on it. I'm not going to mention this in the video, but it's incredibly early. Because, yeah, this isn't a great example to use in your Kickstarter video to convince people to back this, but somehow it worked. But wait a minute, those combat animations are actually from an animation pack. Now, in order to legally use this animation pack, you must purchase a license. The same goes for most of the asset or animation packs that you can buy on the internet, unless, of course, they are free and come with a license stating that these can be used commercially for free. That's not the case with this one. It's claimed here that this animation pack was given to Nico for free via a Discord server. So Nico himself apparently doesn't actually own the license in order to use these animations. And while it isn't exactly 100% theft, a concept art was created for the character of Kaleem by another person on the Somber Heaven team. After he ended up abandoning the entire team, he went on and created Kaleem based on this concept, effectively stealing that person's idea. Also, the hand-drawn maps that I actually praised as being pretty nice looking are in fact from a map generator website known as Incarnate, which this would be the second time he's used this. He ended up using it for the Magic Within project. Now, I want to say that there isn't anything inherently wrong about using asset packs or store-bought assets or animations. In fact, a lot of video games do this, and even games coming from big, well-known studios. And this is actually something that has been happening for years. This isn't a new thing, although it is certainly more common as the access to asset packs and store-bought stuff is a lot easier nowadays, and a lot more people are developing video games. But it is a problem when it gets to a point that your entire game, what you're you're presenting, everything you're showing us here in this trailer seems like it's all derived from store-bought assets. Because I would say that not only the things I've just brought up, but literally everything else that appears in the trailer, from the environments, looking at the trees, the bushes, the power lines, the water, the vehicles, it really wouldn't surprise me if a good portion of the stuff that we see in this footage isn't originally created. There's nothing wrong with using this kind of stuff, but the game absolutely needs some level of originality, and from what I'm seeing here with Somber Heaven, it doesn't appear to have any of it. And because of all of this, and proof towards Nico's lack of expertise, failing to deliver in the past, now that he is legally obligated to at least deliver some version of Somber Heaven, whether it be good or not, that doesn't matter, he absolutely has to deliver a project though. Looking at this, I doubt very much if he can actually deliver what he's promising on his Kickstarter. Now, during the time that Nico started to explain his intentions of what he wanted to use the Kickstarter money for, with the possible idea of using it for personal bills, he ended up vanishing for months, with no update to the team members on what was currently happening, where he is, or if the project is even still going ahead. Months later, he returns, mentioning to the team that he's now going to be developing Somber Heaven by himself, and went on to get materials ready for the Kickstarter page. Now, this screenshot shows us that the original goal for Somber Heaven was $50,000, but as we know, this was changed to $13,000. Now, I believe the reason why Nico brought it down significantly is because, in his mind, the lower the figure, the more likely people are to back the project. He's all about these means of creating something that is appealing. If there is more money in a project, that gives people more faith to put money into it. And also, if the entire goal of the project is a lower figure, this encourages people to put towards it, as it's not this unrealistic figure. Now, there is something incredibly suspicious about this Kickstarter and how much money has been put towards it. You see, tallying up all of the backers, you only get around 5,000 US dollars. And it was only in a matter of a day that it quickly shot up to its funded amount. In one day, someone decided to make a custom donation, which I remember, I think I mentioned this in the initial showcase video, because I tallied this up when I was initially talking about this project, but in one day, someone donated the remaining amount, somewhere around like $7,000 or $8,000. Now, that doesn't tend to happen with Kickstarter projects like this, unless it looks incredibly promising, and especially looking at the footage is enough to tell you, hey, this is something really special. Personally speaking, I just don't think that was the case for Somber Heaven. And I remember seeing this for myself because I was checking into this Kickstarter page every couple of days. I wanted to see how it was performing because I did have my reservations about it. And thankfully, Tom did pick up on this. These are Tom's images right here. They also found this incredibly sus. Nico's explanation of this is that there was a mysterious benefactor who was incredibly passionate about the project and decided to put forward a large amount as they wanted to see it succeed. Now, this isn't totally impossible, I just find it to be improbable. But it's interesting to connect the dots here because something that was mentioned in that initial email to me from the person who worked with Nico was Nico was actually talking about self-funding the project, with mentioning that people are more likely to contribute to a Kickstarter if the goal has already been met, to of course start reaching stretch goals. Now, as mentioned by this person in the email, this would have been one of the most damning pieces of evidence had they had taken a screenshot of Nico actually saying this. So we have no way to prove it other than what's mentioned by this person. And the last piece of pretty important evidence that people should know is everything that you saw in that Kickstarter trailer has been deleted because it was taking up too much space on Nico's hard drive, sitting at 200 gigs or something. So, yeah, this doesn't even exist anymore, and he's wanting to start from scratch, reworking the whole game or something. I don't know. And you can tell when you have all of this right in front of you, all of these things accumulating together, it absolutely screams Kickstarter scam. And while I can't say for certain that putting your money towards this is an absolute lost cause and Nico's going to skip out of town with the money, given Nico's very long and extensive track record with bad work ethics, with scamming people through Kingdom Hearts 3 commissions, using stolen assets, AI, clearly a lack of actual experience, yet he wants to create this big open world RPG with real-time action combat systems, various activities to do throughout the world, drivable vehicles, multiple continents and islands, a deep story like with what we see in Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts. Even if he were to actually go ahead and do this, I think that anyone that's actually put money towards this on Kickstarter are going to be severely disappointed. But that's on the basis that he actually delivers this, and even if he were to, it would take years. Looking at the chance of this actually happening, I would say it is less than 1%. By the way, Nico did mention to me that the purpose of the funds raised for this Kickstarter was to purchase equipment. This equipment would be a brand new PC, as he's currently developing and has been developing multiple projects using a 3060, that's not great, as well as a mocap suit in order to create his own animations and not use store-bought ones. Not too sure how he's going to afford those things if he's going to be using some of this money to refund people, which again is a big no-no. What he should be doing right now is not working on multiple projects. What he should be doing is working to pay the people he owes back, or finally finish the mods they purchased. However, that is basically everything you need to know about the Somber Heaven situation and Nico. And hopefully this has sort of supplied some level of clarity towards the situation, why I decided to remove the video, and I only hope that Kickstarter can actually do something about this. Myself, Darlin, and a few other people have actually reported Somber Heaven, but unfortunately Kickstarter have denied the takedown request. So ultimately, I'm hoping that this video can provide a little bit more clarity for Kickstarter, for anyone working there to actually see who this person is and why potentially Somber Heaven might be a trap. My thoughts go out to everyone that has been affected to Nico over the years. The Kingdom Hearts 3 scamming side of things is absolutely the worst thing out of the entire history of stuff here. A lot of people have been robbed, and money they actually can't afford to lose. And I know this has caused a lot of stress for a lot of people. Tom especially, he's probably the one that's been impacted the most. And like I was saying at the beginning of the video, it was a response that came from Nico very recently, only a matter of a few days ago, that was given to Tom, that pushed me to my absolute limits. I thought, nope, this has got to surface. This guy, and I'm sorry to be so blunt, but he's a straight up asshole. This is the message right here. Tom is explaining his frustrations upon not being paid back. No payment plans, no excuses. He wants the money back by the end of April, and he did mention if the money has not been paid back by then, he will be pursuing legal litigation. Nico's response to all of this, yeah, no worries. An utter lack of compassion and empathy. It's not fair that Nico has been able to get away with what he's been getting away with for as long as he has, and so I hope this video can send the message out there. Please do not trust this person. Thank you so much to everyone who has provided information. I obviously couldn't have done this without you, especially to the people that got in contact with me to let me know a bit of insight towards just the kind of person Nico is. I also want to say a special shout out to Darlin as well for being the first one to kind of bring this into the public space. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. A big thank you to my wonderful patrons. Thank you guys so much for keeping the channel alive. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk again real soon.